Lovely. So you should all have a facilitator on your table that will wave at you now. You've also got a scribe who will wave at you now, who will be writing notes. We will be asked around 5 questions over the next kind of 45 minutes. For facilitators, you've got about 8 minutes a question now. There'll be a bell. There's a number of activities that you can do throughout, which your facilitator will do. But what we're looking for from yourselves is your experience in learning to drive or now driving, if you passed your test, and what Liz has spoken about in that video. So we'll pass you over and we can start. Thank you all.
So what would be really useful to go around here, find out your names just so I can refer to you. I know Charlie now and I've got a Charlie at home, so that's fine. But also at what stage, how old you are, what stage you're at with regards to driving, thinking about driving, learning to drive. You can't drive yet. Cody, you going to think about learning to drive? Is that the plan, to get a licence? Okay.
I can't start learning until I'm 17. I've got like 7 months until I'm 16, so I've got ages.
Yeah, I can't drive yet. I'm only 16. Yeah, I'm gonna.
I'm learning to drive. I passed my theory. I'm just waiting to get my test now.
When you think about learning to drive, so it does give you that freedom, it gives you that independence, it might be cost saving. But is there anything you think, I'm a bit worried about that, or that might not be the right terminology, a bit anxious about that, or not sure or know what to do in that situation?
I'm not a bit of black box guy, yeah.
Black box. Do you know about a black box, George?
Takes money off the insurance, and you can't go faster than, I don't know. I ain't looked at that much.
Yeah.
It's just like a speed limit.
So black box telematics can bring down insurance, but it was also mentioned by Liz Box that they can kind of be coaches for you as young drivers, and they can put some safeguarding measures on. So speed limitation, some have curfews on driving at night, things like that. What would you think about black box?
It just depends on how much the insurance is at the minute, because like, if it's not too high, then I don't think there's any point in getting a black box. If you're confident enough to drive, like without any like help.
What about if it was to give you some safeguarding, some protective measures? So actually, it did mean you couldn't go the speed limit, you were driving appropriate speeds for that. What about that safety side?
I'd get a black box just for the insurance, really, like, because I look for the insurance and it's like £3,000, but if I get a black box, it can go down like £1,000. So that's probably why I'd get one.
And what do you think your parents would say about you having a black box?
They probably want you to get a black box, yeah, because it's safer and it's cheaper.
When it talks about learning to drive, apart from driving, what else do you have to learn?
You navigate and follow.
Yeah, that's right. So there's the highway code. I'm going to move on to question 2, which is how are you finding, or did you find learning to drive process? So I'll ask you, because you've just passed your test, haven't you?
I had 2 different instructors. The first one I didn't really get on with, so it didn't go as well. But my second instructor, plus I did a lot more personal driving, so that helps it a lot. So having that wider range of people I'm practicing with helped a lot.
And that's really interesting, isn't it? Because you didn't quite get on well with your driving instructor, which means the actual driving experience probably wasn't that good.
Yeah, well, I learnt less because we just had different methods. So I was learning a different way than he was trying to teach you.
So again, that means quite a lot, doesn't it? When you're thinking of driving, thinking about who you're going to drive with, do your homework on the driving instructors. Okay. So has anybody actually been learning? You're learning, aren't you? Yeah.
I get along with my instructor, and he puts a lot of just trust in me as well. So that's good. Yeah.
What would you think of having to do a minimum learning period? So that you can all pass your test as quickly as you can at the moment. But what happens? How would you feel if the government then said, no, okay, you've got to have a year's, 12 months of driving before you can actually apply for your test?
5 professional lessons.
5 professional lessons.
And honestly, I passed the first time on that. But I did more practice within my lessons. I was going around the test routes, so practicing for the test. Whereas when I was driving in my day-to-day, I'm driving to places where I'm actually travelling to. So it gave a lot more of a realistic situation. So by enforcing a mandatory amount, it would have slowed certain people like me down, because you have to have lessons with an instructor which you're benefiting less from. You're just repeating the same thing again and again.
I think that's really interesting what you're saying there, that you only had 5 lessons, which you did the route, which that's what you generally do whenever you want to pass a test or something. They generally teach you what it takes to pass that test, but you're not actually gaining loads of experience. You're only gaining the experience by venturing out away from that test route and doing other routes, which has really worked well for you, hasn't it? You know, that's really good. So in your
If you're not sure of any, just
in your hindsight, then the actual progressive driving license wouldn't have helped you at all.
Plus, as you already got a 6-month waiting time as well. So within those 6 months, a lot of people are either wasting time and money, or they're using up the full 6 months to learn properly. So.
Okay, so we were talking about the sort of the minimum age thing, and you were talking about how it's important. It's not just the length of time learning to drive; it's the different experiences that are really important. So to get the experience of driving in different conditions, different road types, different whether it's rural or urban areas, so city or countryside. Is there anything else anybody else can add to that? I'm going to go to you.
I've not had much experience with the car at all, so I haven't got much to add.
When you get into your learning to drive, do you think you will want all of those different experiences that there's? Yeah.
I feel like it'll help move. When I finally pass my test, if something like unexpected happens, then I'll be like prepared for it.
And I suppose going back to what you were saying about the sort of the weather conditions, that's really important when you're thinking like the snow, for example, because we're unlikely to get snow in the summer. Not unheard of, but unlikely. So that minimum, do you think that minimum time period might help that, because it would give you more exposure to those different conditions? Because if you start to learn sort of in the summer and you're very, you're quick to learn, you pass your test quickly, you might not get those additional experiences, or night-time driving, of course, that would come into it as well.
Yeah, potentially, but I think it's more of what I've already covered over of it's not so much a time period, it's more different type of environments and different type of places. As like what you were saying, you may have drove in the snow before, but after the snow is not very often, so we've got to just prepare for it.
Right. So, again, this is going to be tricky for most of you, but you might have to just sort of visualise yourself into the future. So, thinking about how you have driving at night. So, have you had much experience of driving at night? You haven't, so you haven't. So, you don't know how different it is driving at night when you've got the headlights going. So, basically, your engine.
Yes. Driving the map. You learn something on theory about what type of lights you need to use, whether it's your dim headlights, your fog lights. But unless you're actually driving at night,
Because you can have all your lessons during the day and it won't make a difference.
Where would you consider, when learning to drive, being supervised by parents or somebody other than a driving instructor, so that you can get used to driving at night? So what do you think? So going back to one of the questions we asked before about that sort of minimum age thing, and I know we covered this bit. So what do you think about not being able to drive at night for the first 6 months after you passed your test? So if that was part, how would that make you feel in terms of you've done all your learning, you pass your test, and then it's sort of the suggestion is that you then can't drive for 6 months. What impact do you think that would have on you?
I think if it was the other way around, you were having your lessons at night or sort of that evening period, and then you're being told that, oh, actually the time you've been learning now you can't drive in that period. It's almost as much as the stuff that you've learned you can't use as much, if that makes sense. So obviously there's a difference between driving in the day and the night, whether that's the headlights, the hazards of wildlife running across the road, and as well with different people you've got to manage, which if you're not used to that and you're being put into a daytime environment where it might be a bit more busier, clearly in rush hour traffic in the morning and the evening, and it's just not beneficial.
Can you see any benefits of that 6 month breathing space after you passed your test? Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it'll have a bad impact, because say you've just learned to drive, you passed your test, and then you've got to take a 6 month break. I feel like you might forget some stuff, and then when you're actually on the road by yourself, you might be like, oh, what am I meant to do now? Because it's been so long. So
And this would only be at night, so it would, yeah. But I guess if you learn, like you say, if you have lessons and you're learning at night, and then they say can't drive after your month, getting that experience, is that what you're?
Yeah,
Is that,
you might feel like you might not feel like you have that independence. Like,
So in terms of maybe restricting driving at night, is there anything about your lifestyle, activities you might want to do that could affect that?
Stops you from.
What do you think?
Or could you say going on holiday? Say if you have like a late flight and you're not with your parents, so like you won't be able to get to the airport or drive to a specific place without like being restricted to doing that, if that makes sense.
If you're going on a holiday or something like that, something's booked, yeah? Is there anything else that you might be doing whereby you think, actually, driving at night, if I can't drive at night, it's going to restrict me? So that's a holiday. Anything else you might think of?
coming home from places. When it was that's that we look at. Like, say if you're going out for a meal or something, and you stayed until late, so you come home at like 10 o'clock.
So if you're out socialising out for a meal, yeah. Brilliant. Anything else we're thinking of?
Training. Like, if you had a late training session that like ended at like 9:30 and like that takes you an hour to get back home, then you could only go half of your journey and you'd be stuck somewhere instead of getting home. So getting home and it was only just 30 minutes.
Do you see, say, not being able to drive for a few months after passing your test? Do you see it as a restriction, as a bit of a punishment, or do you get the idea that the idea is to protect you in that early phase?
I still think it's a bit unfair because you're being like pulled back into actually driving. Whereas you've just passed, so it should be like a good thing, should be an achievement, whereas it doesn't look like that way, if that makes sense.
Would you expect to be called up to the first team straight away as soon as you start training? Or would you expect a more gradual approach, maybe the reserves, maybe you're on the bench for a few months?
No, you wouldn't be expecting to go straight to the first team because you have to get better before you train. I think driving's different to football, especially because you've been doing tests already, so that would be training sessions, and you'd be doing tests for however long you take it. You'd be doing the lessons, you'd be doing your theory, so you would have gathered all your information up from there. Whereas after your test, when you arrive to your test, you already have all your knowledge and like knowing what to do, like all your skills and stuff. In that way, I think.
So, as a new driver, do you think it'd be difficult to cope with if your friend's talking to you and you feel you're being distracted? Might that be?
Yeah, because you have to focus on what you're doing instead of actually having a conversation. So I feel like, say if you were talking about something, then you could accidentally mess up doing something on the road, or like not be less concentrated.
I think it might not be as different because like when you're learning, you've got the instructor talking to you, so you've got to focus on the road whilst listening. And then like when your friends are talking to you, I think it's kind of like the same, but maybe they will distract you a bit. But I think you just got to focus on the road.
So you said it was unfair, didn't you? Why do you think it's unfair?
The time period's a bit unfair. 6 months is a long time. But
I said to you, what time period would you put on it then, Izzy? What would you say?
2. Yeah.
Is that fuzzy? Yes. You not to have to carry passengers under 25, not talking about family, just passengers under 25 for a couple of months.
But then also the age as well, like 25. Like what Hannah said, 25, anyone can be distracted. It could be your mom as well. Like, it could be anyone. So like, I don't know, I feel like the time and the age is just a bit, I'm not sure. They're like, the people who shouldn't be allowed for that time should be unexperienced drivers because they don't know what they're doing. Whereas if it's like a 24-year-old who knows how to drive, has been driving for like 5 years, should say, I feel like they should be allowed in because they know not to make you be in an uncomfortable situation.
The young footballers worked hard and provided some really interesting input for later consideration by the table facilitators. And there was a chance in the final plenary session to consider some big-ticket items. Here's Chris Lewis asking for comment on one particular issue.
How do you find driving with passengers?
I'm still doing lessons, so I haven't learnt myself fully to drive. But when you're with your instructor, that's classed as a passenger. When you're with your parents, that's classed as a passenger. Obviously, the difference between a parent and someone my age could be maturity. Whether that's linked to decisions that they might make, whether that could be drinking, for example. But I think the thing with driving with passengers is there could be 6 of us trying to get home from one of our games. For the sake of, there's more of a chance of one of us 6 getting into a crash than if we car share and there's 3 in each car, if that makes sense, because it brings the numbers down.
Yeah, car sharing, absolutely.
As the event drew to an end, there was time for some reflection from panellists. First off, Sharon Huddleston.
What I would like to do, my reason for being here today, is to raise awareness to you all that my daughter, in the crash that she was involved in, there was no breaking of any laws. There was no speeding, no mobile phone use, no drugs or alcohol. It was purely inexperience of the newly qualified driver. So don't ever think, well, that won't happen to me because we won't break the rules, because it can happen to anybody. The other thing I'd like to raise awareness about is that with every extra same age passenger that you have in the car with you, you're 4 times more likely to have a crash. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because I was unaware of all these things before my daughter was killed, and sadly I found out too late. So that's why I need to get the message out to everybody here.
Next, driving instructor Kate Monk, who commented on the enthusiasm shown by members of her profession for ensuring road safety is included in the Learning to Drive curriculum.
We have some instructors who sign up to the Honest Truth, who do a fantastic job delivering road safety in every lesson. And then we have some instructors who will offer test routes and a quick test pass, who perhaps don't delve into the road safety aspect. So it's a really mixed bunch, and it's not overly, there's no regulation around what road safety needs to be involved. That's something I'd like to see changed in time, that the DVSA make it a real sort of compulsory part of the driving experience.
I'm Councillor Jackson. I'm also founder of Harley's Road Safety. So my 11-year-old son was tragically killed on our roads by a 17-year-old driver, and I've campaigned ever since to try and raise awareness and try and make the roads safer.
I'm Ray Jarvis. I'm a councillor in North Warwickshire, and I'm also chair of the Safer Communities within North Warwickshire. I think with the telematics, a lot of the newer cars have actually got a lot of this built in already, and it's all part of the way that cars are built now, that you get bings and bongs when you're breaking speed limits and stuff like that. You sit here and say, well, how do I turn it off? Well, you turn it off by driving properly. And I think that's the key thing, that it's not there to hinder, it's there to help.
The event's final comments came from Police and Crime Commissioner Philip Seckham.
So this has been an opportunity, and I've been round the tables and you were expressing an opinion, and I just hope you go away and think, yeah, it's a real privilege to be a driver, and it's really important to stay safe all the time. Being a passenger, being a driver, being a pedestrian, being on 2 wheels, always keep safe and think about other road users. So really good, Chris, really good session. I look forward to giving you all the goodies. I don't know what they are, but I'm sure they'll be good. Yeah. And thank you very much to all of you for coming.
Yes, thank you.